Hello and welcome to the United Stand. Jose Mourinho is unhappy with the Manchester United board reportedly unsettling players with their dilly-dallying over contracts. Gary Neville says there's only one world-class player currently at Manchester United. Van Gaal takes three swipes at Manchester United and Mourinho. Can Jose Mourinho win the title at Manchester United? We put that poll out this afternoon. We'll be talking about that as well. We've got some injury updates. We've got a little bit of transfer news. And what else have we got for you? Yes, a little bit about Marcus Rashford and his hopes of the World Cup. So lots to talk about, plus the interaction with you. So we've got a packed show tonight. So drop us a like, get involved, whether you're watching live or not, in the bottom. So let's start off with this story this morning, I think it was, with Jose Mourinho apparently unhappy with the Manchester United board. It's a flip to what we were talking at the start of the week, really, because there was a story at the start of the week that certain board members might not be happy with Jose Mourinho signing Alexis Sanchez because there's no resale value. He's 29. They've broken the wage structure for him, you know. And then a couple of days later, we get another story in the press with the other side. The truth is probably somewhere in between. But Mourinho apparently not happy with the dilly-dallying. Dilly-dally means slow movement in relation to contracts. Now, interestingly, I don't really know what's going on with this. Luke Shaw, Ashley Young, Daley Blind, Juan Mata, Ander Herrera, all out of contract in the summer, all had year extensions. I thought they'd all taken them, but apparently today Ashley Young and Daley Blind and Sam Johnston, who's on loan, the goalkeeper at Aston Villa, have extended theirs. But I thought they'd already done that anyway. By the by, all them are done. The people who have outstanding contracts at the moment are Carrick, who will retire in the summer, Zlatan, who will probably leave in the summer, and Fellaini, who will hopefully leave in the summer. I must quantify that by saying that's my opinion, not the opinion of the United Stand. I realise we have some viewers who love Fellaini, Jose Mourinho. Anyway, but effectively, I think that if there is any truth in this story about Mourinho being unhappy with the board, I think that's where it would come from, really, because if Fellaini does leave, obviously Mourinho wants him to stay. That's gone on a long time, and it ultimately leaves that player to go. Young and Blind only given those year extensions today. It's not like they've been given 4 or 5 year contracts. This is a year option that we can activate that, again, is not being done till, well, it's basically March the 1st tomorrow. You've then got the big ones for me. You've got Marcus Rojo and Anthony Martial. Now, Martial's contract's up in 2019, I think, next summer, but there's a year extension on that. So he probably won't. Are we going to let it go to a year extension? Same Marcus Rojo. Those two players are coming towards the end of their contract and nothing is in place for them. And I think this, if there is anything in this story, is where the frustration's coming from Mourinho. Because the frustration is that the board is damaging the morale of his squad, because these footballers, a lot of them, let's be honest, they're not Manchester United fans. I'm sure they love playing for Manchester United, biggest club in the world, all that status, all that money, you know, all the fans that you play in front of. It must be living the dream. But they're also human beings who may have grown up in Argentina, in France, where have you, and they are earning a lot of money here, but they'll also be wary that, you know, my contract's coming up. If it's to be believed, Rojo and Martial are on £70,000 a week. Ashley Young gets 120. Lingard gets 100. If you're Anthony Martial and you're Marcus Rojo, you're going to think, I should at least be on the same money as Ashley Young, which is 50 grand a week I'm losing every week. They won't give me a contract. Which on the flip side is probably why Manchester United's board are sort of waiting on giving Martial a new contract, because every week they don't do it, they're saving themselves 50 grand. Business decision, you see. But from Mourinho's point, that is frustrating, because he's got players that are then, am I wanted by the club? Are they motivated? Are they totally happy? You know, difficult situation. It's Danny Blob says, I hope Young gets a new contract, not Treebot Fellaini. Well, Young's been given another year. There you go. Mark, you must be thrilled. Have you heard the Fellaini news? Says Soph E. I've not heard any breaking Fellaini news. I know that a lot of people are saying that he will leave in the summer, but I've not heard anything breaking about him. All I've seen is in The Guardian and in The Mirror that they are bracing themselves to go. But there's nothing breaking out there, and until it's 100% sure, then I'm going to regress and not make a comment about that. Monica, I've got to, this sort of comment makes me laugh. I'm afraid Martial has not proved himself for a new contract. We put a tweet out today. Anthony Martial's got more goals and more assists per minute than anybody in the Premier League. Now, I know people will come back and say Salah, De Bruyne, per minute. Minutes on the pitch, Martial's got the best stats in the league. Obviously, Salah and De Bruyne play a lot more games this season than Martial has because they get picked every week by their manager. But Martial, not to say he's not proved himself, I don't know where people live. I think you're living in a bloody sandcastle with your head buried in the sand. They need to tie down De Gea permanently, says Chuck Pennington, which brings me on to the next thing I wanted to discuss. I'm going to take a lot of your comments tonight. Sup, Mark, says awesome guy. Sup, awesome guy. Apparently he could leave on a free. That's what the News 8 was talking about, Sophie. Yeah, he can. He can go for free, Fellaini. And he literally can go for free. Go. Martial Law, give a long contract to Martial, says Mohammed Al-Islam. £70,000 a week, Kwesi Brown. That's what Rojo and Martial are apparently on. Zed Jamie's right. United aren't stupid. We won't let players leave for free. I totally agree with that there, Zed Jamie. I just think what Mourinho is saying is stop letting people's contracts come down to right near the end because it's difficult for him to. I mean, if you manage, if I'm Marcus Rojo, I won't say Martial because everyone calls this the Martial stand. I'll say I'm Marcus Rojo, right? I'm in my late 20s. I'm happy at Manchester United. My manager likes me. But the club won't give me a new contract. I'm on £70,000 a week. I'm running around in training. I'm an all-action defender. I give my all, and I'm running around training, and I can see 5 or 6 players who are nowhere near as important to the team as me, picking up 50 grand a week more. Over a month, that's 250 grand. Every 4 months, that's $1 million more. And also, are they going to give me a new contract? It's all right saying verbally, are you going to give me a new contract? In any walk of life, that can be quite unmotivating. And I think that's what Mourinho's saying. It's all right saving money and leaving it to the last minute, but is it damaging the morale of my squad? Food for thought. Mark, what do you think about De Gea contract? He's due this season, says Oh My Plays. I will mention De Gea. I mean, I want to bring De Gea into Gary Neville's comment, but De Gea's new contract, look, I hope he signs one. I think if he signs this contract, we're going to have him for pretty much the best years of his career. He may go back to Spain to retire when he's 30 or something like that, but we'll get his 20s out of him. Look, I think many of you are on the same page with me with De Gea. He's given us very, very, very good service through very poor years. I'm so glad he was here to win a title under Sir Alex, but the years after that, Moyes, Van Gaal, and even a bit of Mourinho, he's not been near a title. He's been brilliant in goal. He's had poor defences, poor teams in front of him at times, but he's been a fantastic goalkeeper for us. If he wants to go to Real Madrid, and I said it last summer, it will hurt, but I won't ever call him a snake because he's been very loyal to the club. He's from Madrid. He is Spanish. He's Spain's #1 goalkeeper. If he wants to go and play for Real Madrid, because that's where he's from, that's his country, they are a very good team. They are going to challenge for a title every year, and they're going to challenge for the Champions League. That's 5 reasons I can't knock him. Because I keep saying it every summer, we've got to be challenging for the title because that's how you keep your top players. We're still not challenging for the title. And this is the flip side. We're going to talk about can Mourinho win a title in a few minutes' time, but the most important thing when you've got world-class players, and we may have this with Pogba if he keeps developing, and we may have it with Martial if he goes where I think, and we hopefully will have it with Rashford. If in 3 years we're still doing what we're doing now, miles away from a title, and I know we're second, but we're not in a title race. If we're still like that in 3 years, world-class players will be looking elsewhere. That's the danger. United never really used to have that. When we were unlucky. Well, not unlucky. We lost Ronaldo because he wanted to play for Real Madrid, but we'd just been in a Champions League final and won a title, and Ronaldo went. Beckham went to Real Madrid. You can still lose players even when you're winning titles, but when you're not, it's more likely because they're going to go, you know what? I've done my bit. I've kept this team from being a mid-table team. I want to go and win things now. And I think De Gea, I just don't know. I don't know. I hope he stays, but I don't know. But it brings me nicely in. Anthony MK says, I thought De Gea was about to get a new contract. There was talk in January that he was going to go to get a new contract. But then, if you remember, De Gea actually gave a an interview where he said, I don't feel a need to do it now, I'm happy, which was sort of like, I'm not signing a contract at the moment. So read into that what you would like. Wayne D. General says, if De Gea goes, I still love him. Real Madrid is my second team, so I'll still see him in action. Well, I suppose that works. That works. Hello, Mark. How do you think we need to strengthen in our squad? Love the United stand, by the way, says Dylan McGregor. Well, we can talk about that in a few minutes as well. De Gea needs to stay, as we will lose 2 or 3 places in the Premier League, says Sion Williams. As I said last summer, if De Gea goes, you'll see how good he is, because we'll start to ship a few goals and points. You've got to keep it like that. It makes such a difference. Jay Colthurst says, anyone want to chip in to pay if Elaine need to go? I'm starting a GoFundMe. Mark, what would you prefer? England winning the World Cup or Manchester United winning the Champions League? That's from Druff Asher. Very easy, mate. I would rather Manchester United win the Champions League. I think if you'd asked me when I used to really be into England, I might have thought about it. And I have seen Manchester United win 2 Champions Leagues, but Manchester United's more important to me than the national team, and has been for a number of years now. Which is sad. But anyway, let's talk about what I wanted to talk about, and then we can go through some of your comments as well. Please do drop a like. Let's see if we can get 500 while we're live. We are talking about Gary Neville's comment where he said that Manchester United only have one world-class player at the moment. I'm not going to ask you to guess, because we've just been speaking about him, David De Gea, and Gary Neville is 100% right. David De Gea is definitely world-class. However, if this statement from Gary had been made in December, arguably, I think it'd be correct to say that Manchester United currently only have one world-class player. But as of February the 28th, that is the date, he's wrong. He's wrong. He is more than half wrong. Ahuda 212 has made a contribution. Thanks to that. Remember, you can do that with the $sign on the super chat if you want to read out. He says, Mark, if you would say anything short of the league or Champions League is unacceptable next year, I think Jose needs to leave if you can't do that. Well, we'll talk about that. Thanks for the contribution. Good point. It will feed into the next one. But yes, going back to what I was saying about Gary Neville, he's wrong. Because, and I'm not talking about Paul Pogba. I'm not even talking about De Gea. They're both potentially world class. And I think both of them can be world class. But we've already got 2 world class players in this squad. And I'll argue this out with anybody. Alexis Sanchez is world class. I don't know how Gary Neville or anybody else can say that he isn't. He is world class. If he'd gone to Man City in that attacking team, and I think in the 6 games or 7 he's played for us, if he played those for Man City, he'd probably have 8 goals and everyone would be saying he's world class. Just because he's come to a Manchester United team that's been struggling lately doesn't mean that Alexis Sanchez isn't world class anymore. He is world class. He's world class playing for Chile, and he was head and shoulders world class when he was playing at Arsenal. He was in the top 2 or 3 players in the Premier League for the last few years. He's a world-class player, Alexis Sanchez, and I'll argue that with anybody. I know he's not had a fantastic start for United. I think his work ethic's been good. He's certainly not hit the ground running or hit the ground on fire, but who has? The whole team's been struggling. But Alexis Sanchez is definite, and Ashley Young says the GOAT. But Alexis Sanchez is definitely, and Joe One says De Gea, Sanchez, and Pogba borderline. And I wouldn't say Pogba yet. I think Pogba will be world-class, but let's not be Arsenal. Let's say, yeah, Pogba's going to be world class. He's got to do a little bit more yet for us. And I'm happy with that. I think he can be, but he's not there yet. But definitely, Alexis Sanchez is world class. And I'm glad to see that a lot of people, I saw the comment. I thought, why has he not said Alexis Sanchez? He's basically judging him on his first few games for Manchester United and ignoring what we bought. We bought a world class player. What he's been doing at Arsenal, what he's been doing at Chile, for Chile, he's world class, isn't he? I mean, is anyone going to argue with that? When you're doing your fantasy Premier League team, as much as you dislike Arsenal, if you can afford Sanchez, you get him in. He's a bit like when Van Persie was there. Get them so many goals, been so good for them. He's a world class player. So we've definitely got 2. We've definitely got 2. Crizia Prince says Sanchez is world class. Maybe Gary Neville is trying to take the pressure off of him. Says Dreadlocks Watson. I don't know the context. Deluded Neville says David L. Alexis Sanchez isn't world class, says Shells HD. Okay, this is interesting. He looks the same as he was at Arsenal earlier in the year. He's over the hill. He's past it. Not world class anymore. Well, I disagree, but it's your forum. To be fair, it's all about perspective. Under Sir Alex Ferguson's judgment, Sanchez would not be called world class by him, says Desfa. Yeah, if you've got a high standard of world class, I suppose. Andrew Lineker says Sanchez has been crap for 2 seasons. And Addy says Sanchez is not world class at the moment. De Gea is world class. Mark, understand, Gary. He's talking based on current form. I don't think world class is based on form, to be honest. I think if you're a world class... I mean, De Gea wasn't world class against Chelsea. He was average class, wasn't he? But he's still a world class goalkeeper. I don't think you're world class on form. I don't think you say... I think if you call somebody world class, you base that on that player's best ability, what they can do. And I don't think you describe somebody as world class on form, because otherwise we would have said over Christmas Messi Lingard was world class. Well, Jesse Lingard is not world class, is he? But his form over Christmas was very good. So I don't think you can define world class as based on form, because you're going to make mistakes like Dele Alli, aren't you? You know, world class, you've got to have done it, and you've got to still be doing it. And when I say still doing it, still potentially capable of doing it. If people think he's on the wane, not the Wayne Rooney, dropping off, then maybe. And Chibiki, I agree with you. Eric Bay is potentially world class. Form is temporary, class is permanent, says Pratic. And Andre says, well, if that Pogba's world class, then I don't think Pogba's done enough to be world class yet, to be honest. Hopefully in the next year he will be. Damien Hosty's having problems with his internet. Anyone else having issues? Yeah, bad weather in the UK at the moment. Let us know if you've got a bit of snow. The next thing I want to talk about is Louis van Gaal. So Van Gaal made a couple of interesting comments today that I thought there's one about money, where he was talking about like money and Manchester United are more motivated than money than they are about playing good football, which I found quite difficult from Van Gaal because he doesn't play good football. Well, he didn't at Manchester United. But the one about Schweinsteiger really, I'm no fan of Van Gaal. It's 2 years to the day since he dived on the bloody touchline worse than Ashley Young ever could. That was the most embarrassing thing I've seen. And I think the brilliance of that is, if you watch the clip, because it was all over Twitter today, is the way Giggs is stood there appealing with the referee with Van Gaal. Van Gaal takes the dive and Giggs walks away like I'm nothing to do with him. He's not with me. Embarrassing. And I remember that 2 years ago, and that was around the time, I think, so 2 years ago, obviously the end of February, I decided I was Van Gaal out in December, so that irritated me massively. And I remember people going, oh yeah, he's so funny, and I was like, he's not funny, he's an absolute clown. But on this point that he made about Mourinho, I actually agree. He was saying that the way Mourinho treated Schweinsteiger was basically a disgrace, which I agree with. He said, maybe Schweinsteiger wasn't the player we thought we were getting, but he was still a brilliant leader. And to treat him like he did, chucking him in with the kids and stuff like that to train, was not very good. In fairness, Mourinho admitted that last year, didn't he? He said he felt bad about it because Schweinsteiger was a model professional who worked his way back. But I think Mourinho got it totally wrong about Schweinsteiger. I think, the team lacked leaders, and even when Schweinsteiger came back, and they hardly played him, did he? He got a great assist. He scored a goal as well. I agree with Van Gaal on that. I think the way Mourinho handled Schweinsteiger wasn't good. And also a very interesting thing as well is he said that he tried to get Mats Hummels from Dortmund, but he was having a bad season there, so there wasn't much interest from the board. And they did everything they could to get Thomas Müller from Bayern Munich, which, if anyone can remember, I think everybody knew we were trying to get him. I think we were going up to something like 90 million, and this was a year before the 89 million for Pogba, so 90 million then was a lot of money. But Bayern Munich just wouldn't move, and it would have been interesting if Van Gaal had got Müller, actually, because I don't care what anybody says, he's a good player. Fredney and Gugi has said, if De Gea leaves, who would you prefer as his replacement? I think I would probably go Donnarumma, to be honest. Yeah, because I just think he reminds me a bit of De Gea. I think he's going to be a superstar, and I quite like what we did with De Gea, getting a young keeper. You'd have to be patient with him for the first year, but I would quite like Donnarumma from AC Milan. Mini Riola's his agent as well, so that sort of figures. I'm just going to have a quick jump to Twitter for the next point, but while I do that, I want to ask you lot a question, whether you're watching live or not. Just bear this in mind. When Mourinho signed for Manchester United as the manager, I was convinced he would win as a title, and I was convinced he'd win it in the first 2 years. My opinion on that has changed, not because I don't believe in Mourinho or I'm Mourinho out or anything like that, because I'm not. Just because I think the job he has in front of him is ridiculously hard now, because of, Man City are going to win the title by a lot. Check. Czech Guardiola is just going to be able to go back to his checkbook and buy whatever he wants. All he's ever going to do while he's at Man City is strengthen. And United are still a long way behind. And I just wonder, Mourinho never stays anywhere longer than 3 years. Next year's year 3. I think he will, but you've got to look at those stats, haven't you? Mike, am I as confident that Mourinho's going to win a Premier League title as I was when he came? No, I'm not. Would I bet big money on him winning a Premier League title anymore? I would have done when he first came. Now, no, I wouldn't. I still back him. I just don't. I totally understand how difficult it's going to be for him to win a title. But we put it. So, do you think, as of now, Mourinho will win Manchester United a Premier League title in his time as manager? Get commenting, and if you can tell us why, yes or no. We did put it out on Twitter about 4 hours ago. Will Mourinho win a title at Manchester United, i.e. a Premier League title? I can tell you the results from that were 74% said yes he will, and only 26% said no he won't. And that there was a few thousand people voting on that. So it's interesting, isn't it, that that there is still that strong feeling of optimism around Mourinho winning a Premier League title at Manchester United. I suppose a lot of it, the GOAT says we're not winning the title next year, chill out. I think I wouldn't disagree with you. I think winning the title next year is going to be very, very difficult. And saying that in the preceding February is quite defeatist and soul-destroying, really. But I think United, to go and win a title next year, when you look at how many points City have won it by, they're going to have to be winning virtually every week next season. Now, City have been unbeaten Chelsea, Spurs, us, Liverpool at home, Arsenal away, Arsenal at home. They've beaten everybody. For United to win the title, we will have to, next season, eradicate losing to teams like Newcastle, Huddersfield, drawing at home to Burnley and Southampton. All those games would have to be wins. Eradicate going to Anfield and parking the bus. That would have to be a win. Going to Chelsea and losing, that's going to have to start. You know, the improvement on United is not just on the signings and the style of football. It's also the results. I think to catch City, you've got to expect them to replicate what they've done this year. You know, maybe that's been a bit of a juggernaut, but they're still going to win the majority of their games next season. So United are going to have to do that. So I think expectations that we're going to do that next season, not to say that we can't, maybe is a jump too far. So then you're moving into the scenario, will Mourinho stay more than 3 years? He's never done it anywhere else. Because in year 4, maybe we will be ready to win a title. You know, not saying we can't win it next year, but it might be a step too far to do it next year. So if Mourinho's here the next year, that's when I would be more confident we're going to win it. It's just whether he'll stay beyond year 3. That's the thing. Aduntu Swasi says yes, we'll win it. No manager could guarantee it, says Off Market. City's form won't be the same next year, says Nitan. It could be better. I mean, imagine, one thing I will say is Manchester City will add a Griezmann, a Dybala or an Icardi type player to what they've already got this summer. They will make a big signing like that. They wanted Alexis Sanchez. They didn't get him. They went for Mahrez as a stopgap. They didn't get him. They'll go and get the best of what they want in the summer, and it will probably be a Dybala or a Griezmann. So they're going to be better to add that to what they've already got. Maybe Aguero will move on, but they'll improve. Jose Mourinho has become the new Rafa Benitez, says Tyron Williams. All right, okay. I don't and he also adds Mourinho will only win the title if he outlasts Pep, i.e. if Pep leaves City. City have won 6 points this season by injury time. That's luck, says Agent Paul. We need another 500 million in players before we can challenge City, says Chad Ferrand. That sounds really checkbook manager, doesn't it? But I actually agree with you, Chad. I think if the board said to me you can have 200 or 500, I think moralistically I'd like to say 200 and promote youth. But reality, if you want me to beat Pep and City, I'm going to have to take the 500 because there's more than 4 or 5 positions I need to sort out here and I can't rely on the kids yet. So yeah, you know, I don't like to say that, but I think 500 million is pretty much what this squad needs. Diddy says that City are likely to dominate for years. I don't think they'll dominate for years. I just think next year they probably, you know, for their first time in their history, they've got a, you know, they've never retained a title either. They've never won back-to-back titles, which is very hard to do, but they'll be favourites to do that even now. Griezmann's going to Barcelona, says Addy. Yeah, looks like it. Jose won it against the juggernaut of Messi, Xavi, Iniesta and Pep. Yeah, he had a far better team to do that. If Jose lose, who do you think would take over Manchester United, says Dylan? I don't know, and I don't really like to think about that. Hate to say it, but I think Liverpool might be a threat next season. Alpo, you're drunk. And Fergie was called checkbook manager also, says Michael Jones. It's almost 2 AM here in India. I have college in the morning. See you later, Mark. See you later, Pratik. 500 million. Are you having a laugh? Let's get real. I'm not saying we will spend that, Tyrone. But as Adrian Nadeau says, 500 million in today's market will only get you 4 or 5 players. And he's spot on. It will. And I think most Manchester United fans... I mean, let's do that as a little bit of a poll on the live comments, and I'll read them out for people who aren't watching live. Oh no, you'll see it on your screen. How many players do you think Manchester United need? And if you want to tell me the positions as well, because I would say, and I'm just going to cover up the live comments for a minute and look away. I would say, if you're asking me, without being greedy and without cutting corners, how many players I think Manchester United need, I would go with 4, because I think we definitely need 2 midfielders. We definitely do need another fullback, and left or right, and well, no, forget the fullback. That would make it 5. We need 2 midfielders, and when I'm saying midfielders, I mean a Fabinho to replace Carrick, like a centre defensive midfielder, and a Savic, Milosevic, or a Kroos as a box-to-box. We need 2. We need a winger. We still need a winger, because Mourinho forgets that we all know he wanted Perisic, and now he's saying I don't need an attacker, but we need a winger, so that's 3. And I would say above a fullback, because Fosu Mensah can back up Valencia, and you've got Shaw and Young down the other side. I would say that we need a backup striker. We need somebody to sit on the bench who can come off the bench and score goals, because Latan's going, Fellaini's going, so I'd say 4. Mohamed Asfan says 4. Marty says none. The board will love you. Shibaj says 10. 2 minimum, 3 maximum, says Samatar. 4 top players, says Damien Hosty. 4 MD Khalid says 6. Alexander L says right back, centre midfield, and right midfielder 5. 2 centre midfielders, 1 centre back, 1 right back, 1 centre forward, says Mellon, that's 5. It's true, Sal, we need back and reinforcements, says Snaps. We need only 1 player who is a leader, says Jay Krishnan, and it would improve us a lot, that would. 2 midfielders, 2 defenders, 1 proper winger. See, I disagree with everyone saying we need a centre back. Why do we need a centre back? We've got Bailly, who when fit can be world class. You've got Lindelof, who we spent 30 million on, and I like him more and more the more I see. I've always stuck by Lindelof, even when the top Reds in August were saying, I've just got a funny feeling he's going to be a flop. Oh, thanks for that, top Reds. What did I say? No. Give him time. Vidic was a disaster when we first got him. It took him time, and Lindelof is turning out to be just like Vidic, shouting at everybody as well. Great. So you've got Lindelof, you've got Bailly, you've got Rojo, that's 3, and then you've got Smalling and Jones. And then you've got Twansibi. So we've got loads of centre-backs. And also, I think, actually, Rojo and Bailly, or Rojo and Lindelof, there's no issues with those two. And especially especially Bailly and Lindelof, they're like early 20s. You know, in 2-3 years, they'll be in prime. So I wouldn't get a centre-back. Don't forget we have out loans coming back, says Jake Bullman. Yes, exactly, we do. I'd still say 4, though, even with Fosu Mensah, Twansibi and Pereira coming back. Rojo is meant to be back for the Liverpool game, by the way. I forgot to mention that. Marcus Rojo back in training. It's looking positive. Shubik says we need a left back, 2 midfielder enforcers, and a striker, and maybe a goalkeeper as De Gea needs to be rested, says Shubik. Thanks for the contribution there. We need a centre back comfortable with the ball at his feet, says Chris McTighe. Lindelof. And I don't know whether anybody saw this. There was a story out this afternoon about Manchester United apparently passing up on the opportunity to sign Lacazette. If anyone's been watching for a while, I think 3 summers ago we go quite big in the summer for transfers. If you've only just joined the United Stand, we do quite regular transfer shows over the summer. It's we'll cover virtually, you know, if somebody mentions Manchester United, we'll do a show on it, because we like transfers and we like to discuss transfers. And I know some people hate it, but you know what, this channel, we've always embraced it. Love Manchester United. I like football in general. I like learning about players and watching other games. So I like doing the transfer shows. And 3 years ago, Lacazette was somebody I thought, when Van Gaal was here, might be quite good. For the last couple of years, when Van Gaal went and Mourinho came in, I wasn't at that stage anymore that I wanted Lacazette. Because let's not forget, when Van Gaal was here, we were basically like Arsenal now. And if you're Arsenal now, then Lacazette's a good signing. But where we are now, we're a team trying to be a title winners. Lacazette's the French Defoe. I've always called him that. Or the French Charlie Austin. He's that sort of a striker. He's like, if you put Charlie Austin, Defoe, in the French league, they'll score a lot of goals like Lacazette did. That's not to say Defoe or Charlie Austin are bad Premier League strikers. They're run of the mill. They're not top 4 strikers. And that's been proven with Lacazette this season at Arsenal. So United apparently scouted him and the scouts weren't impressed. They didn't think he had the physicality or the pace for the Premier League. Now the physicality is very good scouting. The pace is quite interesting because he is quite quick. But I think what you mean, I always say this about football, pace in the way how quick you run is obviously obvious pace. But pace in a footballing sense isn't necessarily, oh, you're a quick runner. It's what you can do with the ball. It's your speed of thought. It's a combination of things. So interesting that United potentially passed up on Lacazette because, you know, Arsenal after 6 months look like they've done that themselves as well, doesn't it? What else did I want to talk about? I wanted to talk about Marcus Rashford a little bit. Gareth Southgate saying that he needs to play more games if he wants to go to the World Cup. If you're taking Jesse Lingard to the World Cup, you've got to take Marcus Rashford to the World Cup. Marcus Rashford is still a top player. I've said this many a time. I think it's 2 years since he scored his Premier League goal. First Premier League goal for Manchester United. I think it's to the day, actually. Marcus Rashford's a player I really like at Manchester United. And I believe he can be anything he wants to be. But and when I say anything he wants to be, he can be world-class, top-class, or he can just end up playing for Charlton Athletic. But what he is a striker. He's not a winger. And I've said this so many times, I don't want to repeat it. But he's getting played out of position. He's 20 years of age. He's developing. How is he supposed to learn his best? How's he supposed to learn his craft? He's a striker. He burst on the scene as a striker. He scored goals on debuts as strikers. That's what Marcus Rashford is. For the last 12 months, he's hardly played up front at all. He's playing as a winger. How is that developing and getting the best out of Marcus Rashford, who could be, in 10 years, Manchester United's all-time goal scorer? If he stays here and plays regularly, he'll score goals. But he's not playing up front. And this is the problem. This is why he might miss out on a World Cup. This is why his development is stunting a little bit. He's a striker. He's not learning to develop his game as a striker. He's being put out on the wing. And he's not a winger. He's not a winger. And I think that is massively why Rashford's form over the last 3 months has been very all over the place. He needs to play up front. The opportunity's there. Lukaku's the only striker we've got, really. So why is Lukaku playing every single minute of every single game? Get Rashford on for the last 20 minutes. Get Rashford on for a game. Rashford needs to play up front. And everything will go back to how it was with Rashford. We'll all be excited. People won't be coming out with nonsense like he's the next Welbeck. He can be a brilliant player. He just needs to play up front. A few people have said about him going on loan. I'd hate to see him going on loan, but from Marcus Rashford's point of view, it's probably not a bad thing. He needs to be adamant that he's a striker, and I think he isn't. I think he's a nice lad who loves Manchester United and is willing to play anywhere the boss needs him to play. But actually, I think he needs to be a bit selfish, because that's what strikers are, selfish. He needs to be, I want to play up front, and start kicking up a fuss, because that's, you know what? I want what's best for Manchester United, but from Rashford's point of view, I like him. And he would be right to say that. Oh, I'm a striker, I want to play up front. If you're not going to play me up front, I want to go on loan. And that sounds really, well, how does that help United? But if he goes on loan, I think he could score 20 goals a season for Bournemouth. I really do. I think we're just not getting the best out of Rashford. I want to see Marcus Rashford playing up front. I don't know what you lot think. Vinny Chapman says, if Rashford could learn to play on the right, his overall development would be quality. I think he's a striker. Awesome Guy says, no, he must stay and Jose should play him. Jose's biggest mistake is not playing Rashford up front. He will regret it, says Friend 2018. Well, Marcus Rashford might regret it when in 2 years' time he's 22 and he's missed out on 3 years of development as a striker. You learn how to do, look, training, you don't learn it. I mean, the great thing about Fosu Mensah at Crystal Palace is I think if he'd stayed at United this season, all he would have done is train with the first team and have a few cameos off the bench. He's played virtually every game for Crystal Palace in the Premier League against people like Man City, Spurs. You can't teach that. It's brilliant for him. What you learn in first team training is nothing compared to games, and that is where Rashford's losing out on his development. Matthew McFadden says, after this show, if you have Sky Sports, watch the Lazio versus Milan game. Savic is playing 0-0 at half time. I think that's the Copper Cup, isn't it? I was going to turn it on myself. Too many squad players are not first class players, says Michael Jones. Call back to Ansibi, says Mohammed Asfan. And we are lucky Rashford is a United lad because gives him more reason to stay. When will we play Zlatan again, says Andy Ramos. I think we will see Zlatan playing again as soon as he's fit. You know, my fear, Cockney Reds made a contribution, thank you. He says treatment of Pogba, Rashford, Shaw and Martial is poor. I think we do need to keep an eye on the Rashford thing, not in the sense that let's get hold of Mourinho and tell him to start playing up front, because Mourinho, as I was about to say, Mourinho, as I said last night, the Mourinho way is progress and success. You know, it might not be easy on the eye, but it's progress and success. When Zlatan's back, fit, he will play. And our fears, or my fear, that I love Zlatan, but I look at this United team and it's slow enough in the midfield without slowing the attack down. And he will have to play in the attack and he will slow us down. But I don't think that will stop Mourinho from doing it. I tell you what, actually, you might be able to help me. My phone, I keep getting phoned by a private number. Who rings on private numbers? I think we all pretty much know it's spammers. And how do you block them? Because when they're a private number, you can't do it. And it's twice in the last hour. I can't do it. Oh. Annoying. Anyway, I'm live. Bloody hell. Zlatan is done now, says Adam Core. But I do think we'll see him again playing, though. And why is Rashford not given opportunity to play up front alongside Rom, says Mohammed. I don't think you can play two up front anymore. I think those days are gone. Zlatan in the number 10 role, says Nicholas Pitt. I don't think he's got the legs for that. I think we saw him in one game, didn't we? And he just doesn't do it. I can't search the number, said Jamie, because it just comes up as private. George says, answers my call. I'm definitely going to block it. I think with private numbers now, a lot of them tend to be these spammers. It's a way around it, isn't it? Because you get a dodgy number, you don't know what it's from. You Google it and you see, oh, PPI and all that jazz. So you block it. But now, I think they're all coming wise to it and they're ringing you on private numbers. Thanks for all your help on that one anyway. Lots of good advice. Cameron Stones, bit off topic, but do you think we'll win the Champions League or the FA Cup? Because I believe we can if we use the depth of the squad. You know what? Kevin Ashford was in the live comments the other night. He said Stockport County have got more chance of winning the Premier League this year than we have of winning the Champions League. You know what? All I would ever say about the Champions League is, looking at United's form and players and the way we play football, we shouldn't get past this round, because even Sevilla are better than us on the eye. But being better on the eye doesn't mean you'll win games. We'll probably knock Sevilla out. And, you know, we might get Barcelona in the quarter-final and they might absolutely dominate us for possession, but we might beat them 1-0 over two legs, and then you're in the semis, and then you might do it again, and then you're in a one-off final. I think if we won the Champions League, it would be very, very hard to watch. It would be very, very tense, and it would be very, very boring, but it would be very, very satisfying to win a Champions League, and you just never know with Mourinho. You never know. He did it with Inter Milan. You never know with Mourinho. Although that Inter Milan team was a lot better than the current United side, to be fair. But you never know. But I do think the FA Cup's realistic. Obviously, Spurs are going to be the challenge in that, because the final will be played at their home at the moment, which is Wembley. But Spurs, Chelsea or United will win the FA Cup. And on our day, we're capable of beating any of those, as we did at the weekend. Anyway, please do drop a like on the video. We're getting closer to 500 likes. We're moving towards 200,000 subscribers. We've got some cracking prizes to give out for you when we hit there, by the way. So keep spreading the word. Keep subscribing if you're new. I'm gonna get off. It's bloody freezing in the UK, and I've been looking forward to a nice hot bath all day. So I'm gonna go and have a soak, have a bath, and too much information. But thanks everyone for watching. We are live at 1 o'clock tomorrow. We've got a 1 o'clock show for you tomorrow on the United Stand, 1 PM UK time, and we'll be back at 8 o'clock tomorrow night as well. So thanks everybody. Bit of a quiet week because no football, but there's always loads to discuss, and I've missed 3 or 4 topics which we'll maybe pick up on tomorrow. So loads to discuss. We've got through a lot tonight. thanks everybody for that, and really enjoyed it, and as ever indebted to you for watching and contributing, because that's what makes the United Stand community what it is. If you're interested in That's Football, just type it into YouTube. That's Football. That's our general football channel, and we've started putting daily content on there. We did a video at lunchtime. It was called Neymar to Real Madrid will break the transfer window this summer. Really interesting show, about 10 minutes. Would be interested to get a lot of your opinions on it, really, because it's a bit like the El Nino effect, or whatever it is they call it, because one transfer, and I predict this summer is going to be the most ridiculous transfer window there's ever been, and considering the World Cup is going to halve it, I don't want to type in That's Football, go and watch the video. I think you'll enjoy it, and I'd really like to get a lot of your opinions on it as well. Thanks for watching, whether it's on That's Football or the United Stand, and I'll see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock if you can. If not, 8 o'clock, or catch it not live. Thanks for watching. Speak to you all soon.